Hi rabbits, Research Turtle here. Let's decode the paradox of latent power. You are looking at a machine that touched the surface of the moon, a symbol of high-tech ambition. But if we zoom out, we see a nation defined by a strange duality, asymmetric brilliance in space and technology grinding against the structural friction of a developing economy. This isn't just a story of a rising power, it's a study in complexity. To understand where India is going, we have to look beyond the hype. Yes, it is the world's fifth largest economy, and yes, the GDP arrow is pointing up, but the reality is nuanced. While the aggregate numbers are massive, the per capita income tells a different story, sitting around $2,500. The manufacturing share of GDP has been trapped at 17% for years. This conundrum asks the hard question: why has the next superpower label remained next for 2 decades? To answer that, we have to look backward. This isn't a rise, it's a return. If you look at the long arc of history, back in the Mughal era, India commanded nearly a quarter of the global GDP. Colonialism drained that to less than 4%. What we are witnessing now, projected out to 2047, is not a country asking for a new seat at the table, but reclaiming a seat it lost. The momentum is structural, a reversion to the historical mean. But there is a heavy anchor dragging on this ascent. We call it the shadow of the license Raj. For decades, bureaucratic control stifled industrialization. This created a unique path dependency where the economy was forced to skip the traditional manufacturing phase and jump straight to services. That legacy remains the primary friction point today, creating an economy that is unbalanced. This imbalance, however, birthed a service superpower. The accidental birth of the IT sector during the Y2K crisis, followed by the BPO boom, evolved into today's global capability centers. Driven by the IIT system and English fluency, India didn't become the factory of the world, it became the back office, and increasingly, the global brain. And while they skipped mass manufacturing, they mastered specific high-value niches. Look at the pharmaceutical sector. India supplies 60% of global vaccine demand. By legalizing the reverse engineering of Western drugs decades ago, they built massive scale before entering the WTO. The result is the world's most cost-efficient medicine factory, a critical asset for the global South. We see this same cost efficiency in their space program. It is the definition of frugal engineering. The Chandrayaan-3 mission to the moon cost $75 million. To put that in perspective, Hollywood spent over $100 million making the movie Gravity. They're doing real science for less than the cost of a film about science. This high-tech, low-cost philosophy is now shifting toward defense, where India is pivoting from a massive importer to an exporter of missiles and artillery. Connecting all of this to the world is the diaspora, the living bridge. 35 million Indians abroad aren't just a cultural asset, they're a financial engine. They send home $129 billion in remittances annually, stabilizing the currency and driving technology partnerships. This flows more capital into India than foreign direct investment. But a country cannot run on software and remittances alone. You need to move physical goods. For years, logistics costs were a massive tax on growth. That is finally changing. The Western Dedicated Freight Corridor is unlocking connectivity between Delhi and Mumbai. As infrastructure comes online, the logistics cost is dropping to digits of GDP, finally making the physical economy competitive. This brings us to the Make in India struggle. It's a tale of two sectors. On one hand, you have complex assembly like iPhones, driven by government incentives, which is a massive success. On the other hand, traditional sectors like textiles, which should be absorbing the massive unskilled workforce, are struggling. This is the critical gap. High-tech assembly is working, but mass labor manufacturing is stalling. And this leads to the biggest risk factor, the human capital crisis. Every year, 12 million new young people enter the workforce, but the education system is struggling to make them employable. This is the difference between a demographic dividend and a demographic disaster. If you can't train and employ this massive youth bulge, the engine of growth becomes a source of unrest. This challenge is compounded by internal geography. India is effectively two countries. The south is tech-rich, wealthier, and aging. The north is populous, lower income, and the center of political power. Balancing the resource allocation between the productive south and the needy north is the defining political challenge of the coming decade. So how do they unlock the next phase? The inflection point is set for late 2025. The implementation of new labor codes aims to replace dozens of complex laws with 4 unified codes. It's a shift from red tape to red carpet, designed to give businesses the flexibility required for global scale. This is the structural unlock the market has been waiting for. Geopolitically, India is positioning itself in the Goldilocks zone. In a triangle between the US and China, India acts as the leader of the global south. They're playing a game of strategic autonomy, attracting supply chains via the China Plus One strategy, while acting as the voice for the developing world on energy and climate. The roadmap is clear. By 2027, India is projected to become the world's third largest economy, overtaking Japan and Germany. The target is Viksit Bharat, a developed nation by 2047. The sleeping giant isn't exploding awake, it is rising steadily. The friction is real, but the upward momentum is now structural and undeniable. That's it for today. Turtle out.